Hi, are you happy at work? What makes you happy? How often are you happy? What do you do when you're not happy? Happiness at work. It's something we all want, but at times feels impossible to have. Why? What makes us really happy at work, and why is understanding the science of happiness at work important for us as individuals and for organizations? Welcome to Dear Workplace, where we study changes, trends, and challenges in the workplace. Today, we're diving into all about happiness at work. Hi, I'm Monica Kang, founder and CEO of Innovators Box and the host of this podcast, Dear Workplace.
One of the things that surprised me was that initially people couldn't really say how they achieved having a really good time at work most of the time. They just knew that they did, and they knew also that they were a little bit different from their colleagues.
It's very cliche, but tomorrow's not really guaranteed. So if you have something you want to do, I wouldn't put it off. It still took me 4 years after that to really go for it, but it started to be at the front of my mind even more, and I wanted to do it. So I went after it, and so that was kind of when I decided to go all in.
Earlier in my career, my senior peers and mentors shared how being unhappy at work is expected and normalized at times. The workplace can be a place where you meet a lot of new people, learn new skills, grow, bring meaningfulness, and make a difference. And it could also be the place where you feel stuck, misunderstood, exhausted, and busy all the time. In a way, it made me feel, the pain you feel at work as normal, instead of wondering, what if I could be happy and productive? This is not a naive wish. Research shows why we must be more curious about the happiness at work. Snack Nation identified a few important stats from various researchers that Gallup, USA Today, Rand, Forbes, and Harvard Business Review that I thought were helpful to note as we start into this conversation. Companies with happy employees outperform the competition by 20%. Happy employees are 12% more productive. 36% of employees would give up $5,000 a year in salary to be happier at work. Happy employees take 10 times fewer sick days than unhappy employees. Close work friendships boost employee satisfaction by 50%. So in other words, happiness at work really matters, not just for the individual and how their journey will be, but even for the company as a whole. So what makes us happy, and what is happiness? I found the Harvard Business Review 2015 article, The Research We've Ignored About Happiness at Work by Andreas Spicer and Carl Cederstrom insightful. To start, the authors point out a very important nuance that, quote, we don't really know what happiness is or how to measure it, quote. And because of that, not all happiness equals productivity, and some happiness can be honestly exhausting. In other words, happiness at work is not as black and white. And surprisingly, Dr. Catherine Aller also found that to be true when she started researching this topic.
One of the things that surprised me was that initially people couldn't really say how they achieved having a really good time at work most of the time. They just knew that they did, and they knew also that they were a little bit different from their colleagues.
Meet Catherine, a happiness researcher and positive psychology coach in Auckland, New Zealand. Catherine is on the mission to help people find joy and purpose at work. She co-founded a workplace wellness firm called Joy Work NZ, and for the past 14 years, has supported many SMEs and corporations to create a workplace where everyone could thrive. What she was sharing just a moment ago is how it felt when she started the Happiness at Work research. Even when she started with just a few people to study patterns, she was struck at how everyone who seemed so happy at work didn't really know why they were happy, other than that they knew they were happy. Ever noticed that? I thought about that for a moment. When were times I felt happy at work, even though I wasn't sure why? Are there particular moments at work that consistently make me happy? For me, a few scenarios always show up. First, the first day at work, because it's like entering a new environment and I get the buzz feeling of I made it to this team and new project. Second, when I solved a complicated problem that I chose to go beyond than what was expected and wowed my stakeholders. The acknowledgement, appreciation make me feel that I was understood for the bold decision-making I've done. But also, I get to personally see myself and give a pat on the back and say, hey, that was a good move. Third, when I walk away from another meeting being affirmed that, hey, the people we work with and the project I'm working with is so fun, meaningful, and something that I enjoy doing. I feel like I'm being paid to have fun and grow. Does any of this resonate with you? Probably, because research shows the few examples I shared are common ways people find happiness. Finding belonging, being appreciated, and seeing yourself grow. And that's exactly what Catherine noticed when she started studying the people who were happy at work.
On the whole, people did work in fairly good workplaces, fairly supportive management. Some of them were self-employed, but if they were working in an organisation on the whole, it was a pretty good organisation, a pretty good management. And that is a great, obviously perfect conditions to help facilitate our enjoyment of work. However, they also saw themselves as distinct from a lot of their colleagues in that they knew they enjoyed a really great time at work and sometimes their colleagues didn't, even within a good structure. So in terms of what was surprising for me around their not necessarily knowing how they enjoyed their work initially, what happened was I had to then sit back and ask more questions, but also once I had the transcripts to really look more deeply. And I did see then that they did use quite specific strategies and attributes and ways of thinking. And I think what was going on is that we as human beings, we are quite habitual creatures. And so they too habitually had learnt responses to situations that perhaps were quite constructive and led them towards a happier result when they had encountered challenges. It had become a habit. And so when I dug a little bit deeper and had a look, okay, what was going on there? So one of the really interesting things was that for the people in the sample, they all saw having fun, enjoyment as a priority in their life.
Ding, ding, ding! This is so golden! Yes, people who enjoy work are people who make it a priority to have fun and enjoyment in their life. Not just at work, in their life. In other words, you lead your days with what you are looking for to be happy. Not wait until people give you happiness. As Jack London says about creativity, you can't wait for inspiration. You have to go after it with a club. So is happiness. Go after your happiness.
One person said, next to my family, it's my top priority. And somebody else said, I just couldn't really function if I didn't have that experience at work. So it was a real top priority. But it wasn't a pie in the sky dream kind of priority. It was actually a very realistic priority for them. And so I think for a lot of us, that probably seems like, it's like a dream. But for them, it wasn't. It was actually something that they could and did achieve. And so they were kind of inherently hopeful, really. And one of the things that I noticed about these people was that often when we're really unhappy at work, we're finding it really challenged, we feel very stuck. And that was my experience when I had been unhappy in my job. However, these people seem to have an inherent sense of control. There was a sense that something always could be done when they encountered a challenge. And this was really perhaps my key finding. And it didn't have to be anything too big. I mean, it could be small, it could be big. So it could just be, I'm not having such a good day, I'm feeling a bit like I'm not making a lot of progress here. I'm going to go for a walk around the block and take some time out. That was one of the situations that one of the women talked to me about. Or it might be something that is a little bit more complex, such as a situation in which one of the participants was talking about how she was taking on more than she felt she could. She realized it was often because she had started to take on the work of colleagues that was outside of her remit. And so in that context, it might involve conversations with colleagues or even management and, a thoughtful conversation there. But essentially, this idea that something always could be done. So it's quite hopeful and outside that, stuck feeling.
So true indeed. How we frame and view our feelings of being stuck and stress influences how we navigate it. This is why I found the philosophy of flow and creativity so powerful, as science teaches how you're always in control to be creative and find flow no matter what you do, if you choose to do it and want to do it. And as Catherine shares in her examples, happiness does not have to be something huge. It's built into small daily routines and interactions such as how other colleagues step in for us, check in with us, and give us appreciation. That's something we could do every day and make others feel heard and understood. This is why I was inspired by Imani's journey to finding happiness at work and in his career. Meet Imani Roberts from Los Angeles. Today, he is an adjunct professor at California State University, Fullerton, an author, an entrepreneur as the chief musical curator at the Imani Experience, and a DJ. Yes, he loves DJing and bringing people together with music, and he realized this was something he was passionate about very early on in his career. Except that in the beginning, he wasn't sure if this was a sustainable career. It looked great to see how others do it, but maybe it's too risky. Why rock the boat? I asked him how he got to be here.
Well, how I got to be here is a long, circuitous journey. I'll give you the short version. Like, I grew up working in hotels, started working in hotels when I was 18 years old. Soon after that, a year later, working for Marriott Hotels, traveled to DC, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, Miami, back to DC, then out to LA, working in a variety of jobs, including general manager of a hotel, director of marketing, regional director of sales and marketing. But when I was in college at Howard University, I saw DJ Biz Markie, may he rest in peace, at a club called Quigley's in downtown DC. And that night is when I decided I wanted to be a DJ. Initially, I did not have the courage, and I just thought that I was supposed to pursue a traditional kind of 9-to-5 job, get the wife, the kids, a 2-picket fence. So I just kind of put it to the side. But every city I lived in, I would go and visit the clubs, watch the DJs, evaluate the music scene, and I just kept learning. Finally, when I moved out to California, I had a really close friend of mine, Josh, who went to this school called Scratch Academy. And he said, you need to go, that'll help your DJ skills, because I was pretty much self-taught until then. I went to Scratch Academy and had probably a life-changing experience. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. And that's when I really started to elevate my DJ game. And I've been DJing ever since. And then once the pandemic hit, I also added live streaming to my tool belt. And that has further elevated my DJ game in ways I couldn't imagine. So that's a quick story about how I got to where I am. In no way could I have imagined that I would be here right now. This is the furthest from what I thought was possible for me.
Furthest from what he may have thought, but closest to what he longed to be since those college years when he first saw someone on stage doing DJ. I asked Imani what really gave him the courage to tap into his dream career. He could have easily stayed in hospitality. He was doing well, and he enjoyed traveling around the world with that work. He brought us back to 2004, where an event shifted how he prioritized life. Happiness couldn't be something we wait for.
I'll look at maybe 2 or 3 different things that happened. So first would be, I think my dad passed away suddenly in like 2004. And so that kind of just took away a lot of my naivete. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I was no longer naive. And I just kind of reminded me that, tomorrow is very cliche, but tomorrow's not really guaranteed. So if you have something you want to do, I wouldn't put it off. It still took me 4 years after that to really go for it, but it started to be at the front of my mind even more. And I wanted to do it. So I went after it. And so that was kind of when I decided to go all in. In addition, I was working for Marriott, and I had a boss and she wasn't really supportive, and we were just kind of more about spreadsheets and meetings and less about the people. I love working with people. I love to develop people, have people help me learn. I just said, no, this is just not a good fit. So let's just try to have a go at it. It was kind of right after the recession of 2007, 2008. And I said, if I don't really go all in now, then there might not be another time because, Father Time waits for no one. It was a combination of dad passing away, moving to California, having a boss that wasn't supportive, that just was a continual reminder that it's time to go for it and see how far you can take it. You can always come back to the corporate life.
Events that make us rethink what is really important. This relates to why in our previous episodes of Season 2, we spoke about why people stay or leave jobs, and how the pandemic permitted more people to really wrestle with this question. What do I really want? And yes, as Catherine said earlier, not all happiness means quitting your job or going out and starting your business. The key of happiness at work is that you have to seek it, want it, and know why you want it. And if you don't know what makes you happy right now, no worries. As Catherine said earlier, a lot of us initially don't know or may not know. The key, rather, is that you sought out after it. It would take courage, as Imani shared in his journey, and some of us may wait a few more years. But don't wait too long. We really don't know what tomorrow brings, so why spend more time on things you'd regret versus building each day and doing more things that help you grow and be happy? Oh, and remember, DJ is a competitive industry like any career.
I think in terms of the music industry or DJ world, I would love for people to continue to know how it works in terms of when we get music from labels, who gets compensated, how we acquire the music, just the skill of DJing. You can't just pick up a controller that you get from the Guitar Center and go DJ a party. You can't just be on Spotify and DJ a party. I mean, you can play music, but in terms of reading a room, which is a very difficult skill that's different every time you do try to read a room or you're in a party, is a very unique skill. You need experience. Collecting music, being able to kind of flow 5, 6, 7, 10 songs together to take the crowd on a journey, that's a skill. And many people take that for granted. So those are just some of the things that I think people need to know about the DJs, and that we're skilled at it. That's why you need to hire a DJ, a professional DJ. Oh, I forget the quote. It's real DJs aren't free, or so I have to think of this right quote, but it's you got to pay, you get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for indeed. Whether it's DJing to leading a company, having people who love what they do, caring about the expertise, or wanting to share that with others can really make a difference in the quality and the experience shared. This is why when I asked each of them for final advice, they reminded me of looking at the long run.
I'll use one of my favorite quotes as a launching point for my advice. It means if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So that's an African proverb. And it just proves that you need a really strong group of people. It's okay to ask for help. If you have a good team around you, you're going to go very far. You can't get through it alone. You can't get through life alone. You need good people. You need good advisors, friends. I would not be where I am today if I did not have the assistance of mentors, professors, bosses. So don't discount that. Try to find good people to surround yourself with. Be patient, give yourself grace. And if you have an idea, don't wait. Start to pursue it. Try to go for it sooner than later, because you don't know where life will lead you. And you might need to have that idea working if something else happens.
Around this topic of having more enjoyment at work, finding ways to be happier at work, is to, when we are feeling challenged, really kind of tune into ourselves and recognize that. Because I think when things aren't going so well at work, we often kind of try to just push on and ignore that, or try and be positive. And I think that's just, we like to think of ourselves as hard workers and so forth, but just to remember to tune in. And when things aren't going so well, even if you're having not such a good day, just to pause. Take a pause and recognize that's going on. Because when we recognize, that's when we can take some different action from perhaps our regular habitual action to create a different outcome. But we have to be able to recognize that. So, yep, that would be my number one piece of advice, to pause and recognize when you need to stop and maybe just take a different route, do something different to shift your experience and enjoy your work a little bit more.
Do something different and bring people with you. Happiness at work is not built overnight. Take the time to know what you want, why you want, and find friends at work and in life that you want to take with you. And as both Catherine and Imani say, no matter what it is that makes you happy, you have to seek it to make it happen. So what are you waiting for? Try identifying 3 things today that make you happy. And make time to do at least one of them today at work. How would that feel different? Every step counts. I look forward to hearing how you find more happiness at work. Thank you so much for joining us at Dear Workplace. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. This is your host, Monica Kang, founder and CEO of Innovators Box. Thank you, Catherine and Imani, for sharing your journey and insights with us today. Please take a moment to follow and learn more about their journey. I put the links in the show notes. Next week, I want to dive a bit deeper into what it means to really lead for good. What does it really mean to be a good leader? And how can we become one even if we feel we haven't seen others like us? Curious? Join us next week at Dear Workplace to uncover more. Send any questions at info@innovatorsbox.com or dearworkplace.com. Have a great week!
Hello, I'm Sara Piedrahita, the virtual assistant at Innovators Box, and I hope you're enjoying Dear Workplace. Maybe you already noticed my accent. I'm Colombian and just graduated from advertising. I also learned English mostly by listening to music in this language, which is something I love. This show is brought together by our awesome team: Sam Lammert on audio engineering and editing, Kelly Gravo on marketing, Akriti Pandey on website, Monica Escobar on branding, Leah Oricini on social media graphics, me and Flor on project assistance, and Luke Helder on music. Of course, Dear Workplace is hosted and directed by Monica Kang, founder and CEO of Innovators Box. To continue the conversation of remaining the workplace, visit us at innovatorsbox.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share. We'd love to hear what you enjoy and what I can convince Monica to talk about in our next episodes. See you next week.